everybody, it's True Detective here. Another one of these random thoughts episodes, kind of like podcast, and let's start with skin problems. That's our today's first topic. The Ultramind solution. Sometimes with skin problems you're not even allergic to stuff. I'm seeing a lot of new subscribers coming in. That's just great. Keep subscribing and keep following the channel. So now let's talk a little bit about computers and ask this question. Should people that don't understand computers and cannot do programming and that kind of stuff and don't really understand much of anything about computers, should these kind of people use computers? Well, I think that computers were made to be used. So now let's talk about what kind of computers are there. I built a couple of computers for myself and for my buddies also in the past, so I know how it's done, but nowadays I wouldn't do it. Because with Linux, the Linux operating system, it's kind of finicky to build a computer out of components for Linux. So let's go over the components of a computer. You have a CPU, that's your central processing unit. You have a GPU, that's your graphical processing unit. You have your motherboard, that's the biggest PCB on your computer, and into that the processor and the GPU and the RAM and the hard drives are attached. Then you have the hard drives and you have the RAM. RAM is volatile storage and the hard drive is non-volatile storage. Then you have the power supply. A lot of computers, they also have a case on them, and with the case you have fans. Yeah, get a lot of those fans. If you have already built a desktop PC and you're interested in this Linux stuff I'm talking about, go ahead and try it out. It might work just fine. But it's also possible that if you have some esoteric type of hardware in that PC, it might not work very optimally. So that's why I went with the Intel NUCs for like years and years and years, because they are such a great Linux machine. Back in the days, now let's go back to that subject of Gundam plastic models. I indeed built those Gundam plastic models, and if you are interested in that, that's great. And it's a great hobby. Don't give it up. I used to always listen to this YouTube channel called Linux Action Show while building those Gundam plastic models. It also, back in those days, music also mattered to me a lot. It was an important part of my life, music, and I listened to a lot of artists. At the moment I'm reading this book, I'm over the half point right now. Computer networks, and Andrew Tannenbaum, he's a great teacher of computer stuff and computer tech, has some videos on YouTube too. And in that book I just read about the IPv4 and the IPv6. What's the difference there? I also read about routing algorithms. Well, basically with the internet, when you route a package through the internet, there are specific rules and guidelines for certain packets, how they are going to be routed, so that they take a specific type of route and a specific type of path to that destination. So not all traffic on the internet is routed the same. Let's go back to those torrents. With torrents, you don't have a centralized server. Each one of those downloaders that downloads a file on their computer starts sharing that with everybody else who wants that file, whatever it might be. Something nasty or maybe something more positive. I've had this idea in my mind that it would be great if some of my videos would end up as torrents at some point. It would be completely okay with me that my videos would be shared online with torrents. That would be just great. You probably don't know this, but with torrents there's also nowadays also the Anti-Copyright Act, or those anti-copyright, I mean those organizations that try to stop piracy. Downloaders of torrents, those are pirates. You remember that old scene in every DVD? You put the DVD in and there's like this piracy is stealing, you know, type of shit. I don't do pirating nowadays. But if you do, you might be interested in using a VPN. I remember downloading a lot of these shows online called Tokusatsu. So that's Japanese Power Rangers. That's what it is. Japanese Power Rangers. They were interesting shows, you know. They are filmed in real locations in Japan. And these characters usually had these power belts or that kind of stuff. It was a combination of real human beings doing kung fu type of fighting and computer generated images. It wasn't such an obsession of mine as with anime, but I still like to watch that stuff. I got to know that tokusatsu stuff because I watched this YouTuber back in them day called Dante. If you know Dante, if the man is still alive, then great. He used to make videos about, wow, he had this dog and he took the dog out with him. And he lived in some old school building, I believe, at least back then. And he was talking about this tokusatsu stuff and ordering those power belts, this toy type of stuff from Japan. So that's how it goes with the internet. You become conscious of this and then you become conscious of that, and all of a sudden you have went from being just this regular dude into watching Power Rangers from Japan in like 5 minutes time. But it can't lose the weight for you fast. Then something about console gaming. I used to be a console gamer too, and I played a lot of console games. And I had a couple of different ways that I played console games. I had a big TV and I had a monitor. What I can say to you about console games is that if the game requires any amount of like fast reaction time, then playing with a monitor even like this, let's go into the differences of monitors then. Some monitors have very low response time. This probably doesn't. This probably has a like longer response time because it's geared towards image editing, image manipulation. And I did that wallpaper myself. But there are monitors that are very fast response rate. When there's human input from the user, for example through a mouse, that requires a certain amount of time. There's a latency between that showing up on your screen. It's the same with the internet. With torrenting and this kind of stuff, it doesn't really matter what's the latency there. It's only about the bandwidth. It's more than about the bandwidth too, because with torrents, if you have, for example, 10 people who are sharing that, seeding that, then if they all have a fast internet connection, you can download that file very fast. The bottleneck at that point becomes your own connection. But if there's only one person who has that file, it's going to take a longer time. So to mitigate and to go around this, you would use a seed box for the first torrents. A seed box is basically an amount of storage on some cloud service, and there you host your torrent program. And if you use a seed box to torrent, it's probably a very slim to none possibility that you will get caught by some of these anti-piracy. Of course, seed boxes, though, they cost money to use. But with a seed box, when you have torrented that, you can direct download it from there. I wish some of my videos are made into torrents at some point by somebody there out there. It would be just great.